Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you a couple of things, specifically how to use StatCrunch, which is a software included with your Pearson account, to show you how to analyze the data that we collected about what's typical about us, Math 205 students. And then I'm going to help you through with a couple of questions in the first group assignment. So first of all, one thing that you're going to notice when you open up the spreadsheet is that I've kind of cleaned up the data a little bit. Specifically, if you take a look at column E, for ethnic, I didn't really tell you guys how to type in your response, so I just went through and made it consistent. So just make a note, W means white, AA means African American. I think if it was Asian, I just wrote out Asian. And then if you see an M means mixed race. Okay, H means Hispanic, and I think there was someone who was Native American, so I just wrote that out. So just pay attention to that. The other variable that I cleaned up was major and first minor. So again, I kind of went through just to make everything a little bit more consistent. If you're unsure what some of these abbreviations stand for, you can just email me or you could just look it up in the JU course catalog. But most of this will be common sense. It'll be common sense to you. So when you write your write-up and answer the question about the majors, actually write out the word, like NUR means nursing, but don't write it as NUR when you're writing up your write-up, your final project. Write it out as, this is how many students were nursing majors, etc. So ES is actually, this is exercise science, so let me fix that. I'm not sure what BA is. Somebody put that in there, but I'm not 100% sure what that is. Everything else is, again, pretty self-explanatory. HLSC is health science. HIST is history. We've got poli-sci, psych, management, so MGT. CS means computer science. I think we've got some sociology, SOC for sociology. Cyber for cybersecurity majors. PHYS is physics major. BUS is business. Let's see here. We have a biochem, sports, business. What else? Let me clean this up. That should be nursing. Accounting, ACCT, and I think there's also some aviation majors in here. So you'll see down at the bottom, AVO for aviation management. Again, just pay attention to that when you do your final write-up. So now I'm going to show you how to create a relative frequency distribution. But before I do that, real quickly here, let's talk about size, okay? Question one is asking you to indicate whether or not we have sample data here or population data, so I don't want to give the answer away, but when it comes to talking about size, just remember that each row represents a response. So for example, the first response starts in row 4, and we can scroll all the way down here and see that we've got responses from row 4 all the way down to row 106. So you should be able to answer question 1 by using that information. But the size is going to change when we take a look at each column, because for every single column it's asking a different piece of information, and not everyone responded to every single question, meaning each column. So for example, height, I think question 4 is asking you to create a frequency distribution for height. You can see here that if I scroll down to row like 42, I believe, yeah, so row 43 here, you can see this person left this question empty. And then I think further down, another person did not answer this question. And so here you can see that the sample size, or the size for column D, is going to be smaller than some of the other columns, because here, 2 people didn't respond. So that's going to change the size. Okay, and that's totally fine. So when you look at each variable one at a time, you'll see that the size, meaning the number of people who respond to each survey question, it's not going to be the same across the spreadsheet. Okay, so just pay attention to that, because that is going to affect things like when you calculate certain proportions, because the proportion of interest is going to depend on that size, which we call N. Okay. All right, so now let's create a histogram for height. So to do this, the first thing that you want to do is you want to open up StatCrunch. So again, you can get to StatCrunch from the Pearson homepage in Blackboard. Just open up a blank spreadsheet like this, and then you can also title it to save it. So every student has a your own account in StatCrunch, and you can save files in here. So maybe you want to call this like group assignment number 1. I'll call this spring 24, just to kind of save it in case you want to come back and work on it later so you don't have to retype all your data again. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight all the heights starting with row 4, and then I'm going to copy all the way down to the last row, so row 106. And then literally just copy and paste. So you can copy and paste from a spreadsheet into StatCrunch, and I'm going to put it in the first column here. So I'm literally just pasting. So you can see here that again, right, I don't have data in row 40 and row 89, and that's totally fine. Okay, StatCrunch will know how to clean up this data. So before I create the histogram, I do want to know how big is this sample. So I want to know N, and I want to know my minimum value, my maximum value. So I'm going to click on stat here and go to summary statistics. So this is the same function as that one variable stats function on your graphing calculator. And I'm going to click on column, choose that first column here, and you'll see it'll default to some sample statistics on the right that that StatCrunch will calculate for you. So when I go to compute, you can see here it says that there are 101 data values in this column, and the minimum value is 58 and the maximum value is 76. So if we take 76, subtract 58, that gives us 18. So 18, I think that having 3 classes or having a class width of about 3 or 4 is appropriate here based on that. So now that I kind of know my minimum and maximum number and how wide I want each class to be, so class width of about 3, I'm ready to make my frequency distribution, my histogram. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do here to create that histogram is I'm going to go to graph, and you'll see that StatCrunch will create all these different graphs for you. So I'm going to go to histogram, choose that variable 1, which is where I put in the height. And then here you can choose relative frequency or frequency, but since the question is asking us to create a frequency distribution, I'll just default to that first one. Okay, remember I said that the minimum value was 58, so I'm going to go down by a half to create a class boundary to bound in that minimum value of 58. So I'm going to go down to 57 and a half. And then I said earlier that because our range is about 18 inches, a good class width would probably be like 3 inches. But again, you can make it 3 or 4, whichever width size you want. Okay, that seems appropriate. And then here, once we press compute, you can see that we've got our frequency distribution where our y-axis here represents the frequency, and then here we've got the heights. The other thing that I would recommend you doing before you turn this in is to just, make it look nicer. So the x-axis, maybe label it. So I would label it height, inches. Here you can label this frequency. And then you can give it a title, maybe Math 205 class data or something like that. And then once you have everything labeled nicely, you can just copy. So you can literally copy and then paste this into your Word document for your final lab write-up. Okay, all right, so that's how you create histograms for numerical data. Let's take a look at some categorical data. So I think one of the questions, question 6, is asking you to make a bar graph for the majors. So let's go back to our class data. Let's see, the majors was listed in column, let's see, J. So again, highlight starting with row 4. I'm going to copy and paste all the way down to that last row. Oops, I forgot to copy. Okay, so yes. Okay, all right, so copy there, paste. I'm just going to put it into the second column here. And then here, go to graph. We can create a, where's my, my bar plot with data. Okay, it's in variable 2. And then just press compute. Okay, so here, all right, you can see here that we've got lots of different majors here. If you're interested in figuring out the frequency for each, you can literally just hover your mouse over there. And so you can see here's 2 students are accounting majors, and then 2 students are finance majors, okay? So that you can use this bar graph here to kind of help you get all of the data that you need to calculate proportions. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, please just send me an email.